The very first time I read the script, I loved the script. You know, the script had gone through a couple of generations before I'd read it. There were a couple of tweaks, as always. You get that, you know, with any screenplay. But at the end of the day, you know, the one that was turned in was a great was a great starting point. And you know, then with the additions that Andy Fickman had made, it just really handed in a great script. And you know, what I told Andy, I said, okay, Andy, here's the thing. Very simple. Let's make it funny. Let's make a big family action adventure. And when it comes to the action, make it badass. Do that. And everything will be great. And of course, Andy is more than willing to do that. And then more. That's a great thing about, you know, when you work on a movie with Andy.
So how would you characterize this film? Is it, obviously it's an action movie. What else can you tell us about?
Sure. You know what? I would characterize Race to Witch Mountain, let me see. Were you in the shot?
No.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Start over. All good.
All right. I would characterize Race to Witch Mountain like this. I think it's a big family action adventure movie, and I think, you know, the wonderful thing about the movie is what we're able to do and what Disney, the trust that Disney was able to put into give myself and give Andy Fickman and everybody involved in making the movie, give us that latitude and leeway, was to merge great action, great adventure, high-paced, intense action, and with a little bit of grittiness too as well, because these were all elements of my action movies in the past, and merge them with the wonderful elements that make up a great Disney movie, which is heart, humor, with a little bit of fantasy thrown in there too. So, you know, when you have that type of great mergence together, I think you really have a shot at making a great movie that not only can play wonderfully here in the States, but can play worldwide too as well.
So who do you play? And what's going on in your character's life when we first meet?
I play a guy by the name of Jack Bruno, who, when we first meet Jack Bruno, he's a Vegas cab driver, and he's not particularly happy in his life. You know, he's a guy who has made a lot of mistakes along the way, and for years, I think from the time he was in high school, you know, he started getting into trouble, and he had a lot of difficulty staying on the right path. And again, he's made a lot of mistakes along the way. But what's really special and unique about the character, which I really, really enjoyed, was the fact that, you know, with Jack Bruno, as many mistakes as he's made in the past, he gets a shot at really touching greatness. I mean, real greatness. And what I mean by that is he gets through, you know, a very, the ability to make a decision, a very decisive, defining decision in his life. That decision to touch greatness, and by doing that, he gets a chance to save the world. And that, to me, is very, very special. You know, this one guy is chosen. Of all the people, he wouldn't necessarily be the first choice if you think about it on paper. Who would we get to save the world? You know, if you were from another planet, who would we pick to save planet Earth and our planet? Jack Bruno, cab driver in the city of Las Vegas. But the one thing that's great about the character Jack Bruno, to me, is he has something that he's relied on all of his life, which many people have been forced to rely on, which is instincts. He has terrific instincts about what's right, about what's wrong, because he's lived it and he's been there. So I love that part about Jack Bruno. And of course, overall, you know, in those defining moments where he has to make a decision, quick decisions, instinctual decisions, help him save not only our world, but another world as well.
So story-wise, Jack is driving his cab. What happens? Who comes into his cab? What's going on?
Well, story-wise, he's driving his cab, and Steven Spielberg and George Lucas get in his cab, and he's like, "Hey, I saw your last movie. It's great, Indiana Jones." And they're like, "Thank you. Just take us to the airport." And then after that, two kids get inside of his cab, and you know, these kids basically take him on the fare of a lifetime, the journey of a lifetime. And you know, within 3 minutes, Andy does a great job of setting up the story where these kids get in the cab and they've got a wad full of cash with a drop-off location in the middle of nowhere outside of Las Vegas, probably 50 to 75 miles outside of Las Vegas, and they're two teenagers. So right away in Jack Bruno's mind, it's like, okay, these kids have a wad full of cash with a drop-off location in the middle of nowhere. In my book, this reads like a little chapter called Running Away. This is probably what it is. And we come to find out that they are indeed running away. They're running from many elements, our own government, and of course, you know, a monster that was born and bred and created, manufactured to hunt and kill these children. So he gets tangled up in this web of intricate chases, and all within 10 minutes. So in an instant, his life changes.
So what does your character have at his disposal to fight both these two?
Well, that's a good question. I think what Jack Bruno has at his disposal to fight all these elements, these bad elements, if you will, is number one, he's got a cab. Now, we can't take cabs for granted, by the way, and I know cabbies out there worldwide would say, yes, you're absolutely right, we can't. You know, the fact is, you know, Jack Bruno has he's got a great ability to drive, as most cab drivers do, to see the road from a different prism, as a lot of cab drivers do. And again, not only that, but he has great instinct. And not only that, but he has a flair to fight. And when you back this guy up into a corner, he's going to come out swinging. And that's exactly what he does.
So does it become a chase from then on?
Well, it does. It becomes a chase. It becomes, you know, a big, excuse me 1 second. That's Spielberg, sure. I'll get back to him. I'm going to call him back. It does. It immediately becomes a chase. And, you know, again, that's where it's set up. And what we wanted to do from the get-go, we wanted to, when audiences come to see Race to Witch Mountain, we wanted to make sure that it felt like a ride. From the moment you sat in your seat at the theater, you're eating your popcorn, you're eating a candy, you got your soda or whatever it is, and you're watching. And within 10 minutes, you're in and you're going, and the ride doesn't end until the credits roll. And we wanted to capture that type of movie because the title was very befitting, Race to Witch Mountain. So we wanted to create that, and again, within the story, you know, the moment that these kids get in the cab, which is 10 minutes into the movie, the race is on, the chase is on, the action is on, things are happening. and a lot of times too, you know, what makes it funny, this is where the comedy plays out, is because, you know, with any great comedy, it's the collision of two worlds. So not only does Jack have to deal with these children, these kids that he's not used to dealing with anyway because he's a single guy, but he has to deal with their otherworldly abilities, of their telekinetic abilities. They could make things move, they could morph, and they could phase through objects, and they could really turn your life upside down quickly, if you will.
Were you impressed with these young actors?
Yeah, I was very impressed with these young actors, and I think, you know, I'm always impressed with young actors, whether they're children or whether they're teenagers, because the truth is, you know, making movies is not easy. It's a difficult thing, and I think it's difficult for adults to do. The long hours, the dedication to the process. There's a lot of elements that have to fall into place when you make a movie, and I think especially a movie of this size and this nature and scope. But especially with kids, you know, and then you throw kids into that mix, and these kids have to prepare, and they have prepared for months and months and months prior to us shooting. So I'm always impressed. And what also impresses me too with kids, with child actors, is the amount of capacity that they have to have. Again, because what we do isn't easy, but from a child's perspective and through their eyes, for them to, number one, balance the life of being a child and how important it is to be a child, then you balance work, and this is a full-time job, where usually children their age, 14 and 16, they're balancing school and they're balancing life as a teenager. Well, in this case, our young actors are balancing school, their life as teenagers, and balancing the fact that they are essentially carrying a big movie on their shoulders too, and they've done a tremendous job.
In terms
Let me
of,
put this on vibrate, all right? Like you said, is your phone off? That Spielberg joke will get old. Find a new director.
do you, for the fighting?
Yeah.
Do Do you have new moves? What kind of fighting are we going to see?
Yeah, it's great. You know, for this movie, that was another thing too, you know, with the action genre. It's been a while since I've been back to the action genre. So this will mark my first return back into the action genre. You know, my action movies, again, in the past have been gritty, they've been intense, they've been entertaining too, and I've tried to inject comedy where I could. And I wanted to make sure when I went back to the action genre, we were doing action that actually stood up and competed with a lot of the action movies that you see today. For example, you know, I was always very impressed with Matt Damon and Paul Greengrass, what they were able to do with the Bourne movies, and also Martin Campbell, what he was able to do with the last Bourne movies. I'm sorry, what he was able to do with the last Bond movie. Those movies in particular really raised the bar in terms of the action. I was very, very impressed with that. So going back into the action genre, I wanted to make sure that you know, we had a movie that when it came time to deliver the action was intense and was gritty, and it kicked ass where it had to. And I'm happy to say that you know, when I talked to Andy about that, Andy was right there with me on the same page. We hired a guy by the name of Scott Rogers, who did the last Bourne movie, who is not only a great guy just in terms of the stunts that he comes up with, but he's also a hungry guy too. And to find that balance is very, very important, especially when it comes to stunts, because you know, there's only so much that you can do when it comes to stunts. So it really takes a keen thought process and imagination when it comes to, okay, how can I make this fight different? Because we see fights all the time, but how can we make this different? So you make it by getting somebody who's hungry, by getting somebody who's good, and in Scott Rogers, and you also, you know, get a crew together who really wants to make a great action movie, and you also get a studio who isn't necessarily known for action, but yet says, we want to push the envelope. We want to make sure that Witch Mountain pushes the envelope in terms of what you would expect from an action movie, a contemporary action movie from Disney. So you combine all those elements, and hopefully, you know, you get a good action movie, at least the action pieces that we're blending in.
What?
We're back. Yeah. Okay, we're good.
Okay, 1 second. Okay.
What makes Andy uniquely the right director for this movie?
Let me see. What makes Andy a unique fit and the right director for Witch Mountain? You know, we gotta be honest. Because Spielberg wasn't available. Greengrass wasn't available. Woody Allen certainly wasn't available. List goes on and on. Tarantino, not available. Martin Campbell, not available. Andy Fickman, all right, yeah, sure, go ahead. You know, look, I love Andy, you know, and I've developed a great relationship and a great bond with Andy, and I consider him a brother. I really, really do. What makes Andy great for Race to Witch Mountain is very simple, is, you know, Andy has a passion for what he does, and it's safe to say, of course, there are a ton of directors. All the directors who I just mentioned have a great passion for what they do. What makes Andy right for this movie is, again, I talk about the importance of the merging of contemporary action that could stand up in today's action genre. Not only that, and then taking those elements that make up a great Disney movie, that make up the product of Disney, of heart and humor and family, and again, a touch of fantasy. And those elements, nobody does it better than Disney. We found tremendous success with the game plan in adding those elements together. And we saw that formula worked. So now how can we take that and implement that into Race to Witch Mountain? Andy, I think, embodies, honestly, the spirit of what Disney is. And that's very rare, and it's unique. And there have been directors who've come in before and worked with Disney and then left again, and there'll be many before and obviously after Andy. But I can say that Andy, just not only from a collaborative standpoint, but just in terms of understanding the brand. And I know that, you know, like Disney employees understand what that is, and Disney executives understand what that is. You know, that's why Disney is a very unique and very special studio. It's a very unique and special brand. That's what makes Andy right for this movie. All those elements. He has himself great heart. He has great humor, as you will know, and everybody watching will know when you hear from Andy Fickman. And he's a family man. He loves his son dearly and his family. And not only that, but in his world, he loves fantasy. There's a great fantastical fiber that runs through Andy's body, and you see that, and it's very infectious. That's why he's perfect for this movie.
So there's flying.
Wow, he should pay me for that answer. That was great.
So there's flying saucers.
Yep.
There's aliens. There's menacing government operatives.
Yeah.
Is it a Disney adventure?
Yeah.
Futuristic?
Oh my God. No. You know what I think it is. I think it's a Disney adventure at its highest degree. You know, it's much like you know, as Pirates of the Caribbean was a wonderful Disney adventure too. You know, and every once in a while, you get those type of movies that play not only to a broad audience, but play worldwide to a very, very broad audience, just in terms of the adventure. And you know, when people go to see Race to Witch Mountain, they're going to want to just they're going to obviously suspend their disbelief for a little while and just get away and go on this ride, this contemporary ride with us. And also too, you know, when you talk about a touch of fantasy, we talk about the game plan, and a lot of the movies that, you know, Disney has in their slate, some are contemporary, a lot of them don't have that touch of fantasy. Now for the first time, now what I'm realizing is not only is it unique to have that touch of fantasy in a movie, but you know, what you realize is these children, these teenagers, okay, Alexander and Anna Sophia, are going to become true superheroes to children worldwide when this comes out. Because I know when I was 8, you know, and I saw a fantasy movie for the very first time, and not only that, but someone who I could relate to, a child or a teenager, having these powers and having the ability to communicate with animals, having the ability to move things with their minds, having the ability to phase through. So to me, you know, having that on your plate is a wonderful thing. You know, and I just, for example, like if I could just make this float, like, if I were a kid and I saw that, I'm still a kid. I would love to do that.
Wait, thank you very much.
That's it?
Yeah.
Oh man, that's great. Easy.
you.
Thank you.
a
I
lot.
enjoyed it. Else we're missing? Oh yeah, there is one. Carla, sure. We'll.
So your character, eventually.
Yeah.
So Carla,
Sure.
Carla's character? Who is she? How does she get into the picture?
Well, Carla is a pole dancer in Vegas, who dances. What do you call them? Stripper is what she is. And I'm like,
Let's start from let's start with Carla is a stripper.
she's like, Dave, no, you can't, no.
She's a professional dancer.
Right. Here's $1. This is awful. Boy, it could quickly go south. Okay. Let me see. Okay, so when Jack Bruno, you know, he gets these kids, but he realizes that there is somebody who could possibly help them. You know, who is she's a scientist. Her name is Dr. Let me get all my stuff right. Carla, could you read the script? Bet you it's good. Alex Friedman. Okay. Okay. So when my character gets these kids, he realizes that there is probably one person who can help, or at least in this moment, he feels like he could trust her to help. Carla Cugino's character, her name is Dr. Alex Friedman, who's a scientist who has studied UFOs and has studied the possibility of that for years and years and years, and she's really passionate about it. So in this journey, I go back to Vegas, and I seek her out, and I think that she's able to help, and come to find out that she helps us tremendously, and that's how the relationship starts there. And I love her character because, you know, with Carla's character, she's smart, she's smart, she's tough, she has great instincts too as well. She kicks butt where she has to as well, physically, you know, in these action sequences, and I love that. You know, it's a great empowered character as a woman. I love that, and I know she loves that too as well. And we also have, of course, the great Kieran Hines, who plays Henry Burke, who is the menacing he's the menacing CIA operative of the branch that handles all of the UFO discoveries. Who, when you talk about Kieran, you have to say powerful in the same sentence because he's such a powerful actor. He's a wonderful man to begin with, a great family guy, but really a powerful, powerful actor and a great foe for Jack Bruno. And I can't fail to mention, finally, Junkyard. Junkyard, by the way, and I'm here to say will probably wind up being the star of the movie. And Junkyard is, of course, our dog. And anytime you see a Dwayne Johnson and Andy Fickman movie together, you can always count on heart, humor, and an animal. And we have a great dog who of course the kids communicate with telepathically, and which makes up for great comedy, and he comes along for the ride too.
Is Las Vegas a character in the film?
I think Las Vegas is a big character in the film, and unlike a lot of movies in the past, with us, Las Vegas, number one, is a character in the film, and in a way, it's our love letter to Las Vegas. We appreciate everything that Las Vegas is, and we appreciate everything that Las Vegas is to the character, Jack Bruno, who's came to Las Vegas for a very specific reason and now lives there. And what's interesting is the juxtaposition between, because typically when you see people and characters in Las Vegas, they're the high rollers and they're the big daddy warbucks, and they're big sugar daddies. But in this case, the juxtaposition between where Jack picks up his fares on the Strip of Las Vegas, and he probably has millionaires constantly in and out of his cab. He lives in a very rundown, small efficiency, off the Strip, off the beaten path, that, quite frankly, is just awful. Reminds me of where I used to live when I was 14.